This is Dr. Azizzadeh. You are listening to the Smile Podcast, where I will be sharing with you my unique and holistic perspective on beauty, health, and wellness.
Hello. Millions of people have surgery every year.
Or you could just get a boob job.
Using targeted Botox can be a miracle.
Smiling like that is a skill.
Your surgery has been successful.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Smile Podcast. I'm Dr. Azizzadeh, and thank you for joining me. Today, I have one of my really close and special friends, Dr. Paul Nassif, who is a world expert in rhinoplasty, is one of a great human being, a great friend, and also star of the TV show Botched, and I'm really happy to have him. And today we're going to talk about a lot of things related to Paul's life, Paul's expertise, and get some input. Welcome, Paul. How are you doing?
It's nice to see you, my good brother.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great to spend time with you. And since you and I are talking every day about something, it's nice to have a little social time together.
It's been good. For those that don't know, Paul and I basically run a fellowship together. We usually this time of the year, we have people flying in from all over the world to spend time with us, and we're the co-directors of the program. And we've been doing all these interviews almost every day, 2-3 hours of interviews together. So it's been actually, I've spent more time with you than probably my wife the last few days. So it's been good to do.
I mean, actually, I've enjoyed it. I mean, so we've had some good quality time together, which is what we're all doing now anyway. We're all spending quality time with this once in a lifetime situation. I've told you this before. You and I have been working nonstop since from medical school days. For me. And that's, for me, it's been over 30 years. This is my first break.
No, it's true. I mean, we've been going nonstop basically all our life. And it's interesting. I really miss surgery. But this has been also a really pleasure to kind of do a little bit of a different thing. So first of all, congratulations on your new baby. And I'm so happy for you and Brittany. And that's beautiful. Hopefully it'll be a safe. Oh yeah, show us what you were showing me yesterday.
Hold on. Well, first I'm going to show you this, and she's probably going to kill me.
Oh my God, so cute.
16 weeks. And then I'll show you one more thing that she sent me. Let's see, where is it? Here it is.
Oh, dude. Hello. Oh my God. Enjoy.
And of course, your good old buddy, Dr. Katz. Let me shut this off. I'm going to tell my boys to be quiet. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Hey, guys, do me a favor, because I'm in the middle of a podcast with Dr. Azizzadeh. Honey, can you do me a favor? Can you tell the kids to be quieter? 2, can you shut this door? And 3, is there any way you can put on the den air conditioning? I'm boiling. There we go.
I love it. This has been my favorite part, because the spontaneity of being on Zoom is amazing. One time I was with Dr. Larian, and his baby was running around completely no clothes on, everything all over the place. So it's this is the best part. So
that's why you got the podcast. Yes, sir.
So Paul, you and I have known each other for a long time. We met when I was a resident, and you had just started your practice. And then when I started my practice, we became closer and closer. And I would say 12 years ago, when we started our fellowship, I really feel like, our bond was fantastic. But what I want first, and I don't think many people know, and this is a question we ask all the fellows, but I'm asking you now. Tell, I think, the listeners and the audience your journey, because I think it's a very unique journey. You're obviously world renowned.
Evolution in medicine.
Everything. What you were doing for a while before you went to med school, all of that stuff, which is, I think, much more interesting than the medical school part.
Okay. So I grew up in Los Angeles, so I'm a local. You're a local. You grew up in LA,
Yeah.
too. Of course, you grew up in Beverly Hills, though.
No, West Hollywood.
West Hollywood, okay. Well, I grew up in Los Feliz, right above Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to become a doctor. My uncle, Floyd, was a GP. Back then, they did some surgery. So I used to help clean his office as a young kid. And my mom and my sister, God rest my mom's soul, she goes, you know, even though I'm not Jewish, she go, my son the doctor, with the Boston accent. So it started very young. And so what happened was I liked it, and I actually did like it. It wasn't really pushed into me, but of course it did help push me along. And when I went to college at USC, I really wanted to, again, think about pre-med, but I had a different background. I went the business school, and back then, usually you're a chemistry, biology, psychology. You're somewhere in the sciences when you apply to medical school. Usually not business. Nowadays, they would love it, probably. You know,
Yeah, in our era, it wasn't like that.
you know. So I went and did a real estate finance degree. And what happened is I went to my lovely wife, Brittany. Can you just come by here and say hi? Just go like this and wave to Dr. Azizzadeh. Because since I was in the middle of a beautiful story, but now since you, huh? You aren't? Well, here.
Hello.
Just come.
Hi, Brittany.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
We're moving into another house because we're renting as we're building. And she's you're gonna go leave. You don't want them to help you? Okay. All right. I love you.
Oh,
So there's your spontaneity right there. But, so I was pre-med in business. So I did do the pre-med thing by all, with all the prerequisites. And it took me 4.5 years. But I ended up going to school for 5 years because what am I going to do in the middle? So I just finished it. And while I was doing that, I was in the restaurant business. I started waiting tables when I was just 16. But even right before that, at 15, with my business permit, I was working at 31 Flavors, Los Angeles Zoo, all in food. The LA Coliseum, food. Everything has always been food since I was a little kid. So I started waiting tables, and then when I was in college, I was waiting on tables in a high-end restaurant on the Sunset Strip called Mirabelle. And then I became a manager, and this is when I was going to college. So I did that the whole time. In the meantime, I applied to medical school while I was running a restaurant, and we just finished. I was even a bouncer in a nightclub when I was doing all this stuff.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's one called Vertigo.
I remember that. Oh my God, I went there a lot. I have a good story to tell you.
I was probably
about
the smallest one around, but my roommate, my best friend, Don, he worked for me in the restaurant 2 nights a week, waiting tables, and I worked for him 2 nights a week at the club.
So
anyway, I didn't get in my first year when I tried to get in medical school because I had decent grades. Average scores to get in is called an MCAT. A little bit of research, but the business degree. And then, unfortunately, I remember the first year I had a few interviews, nothing happened. I was very bummed. In that meantime, I said to myself, what if I don't get in? So I started thinking about what other business do I like? And it was the restaurant business. So to cut a long story kind of short, I found a restaurant in Pasadena, California. And I remember, and then by the way, I took that test a couple more times. I did more research, volunteer work at a big hospital in downtown Los Angeles, California hospital. Emergency room, all the trauma, all that. I was doing it all. Had a few more interviews during that time. So on July 15th, 1987, yes, I'm dating myself. It's my first day we opened a restaurant. And I'm busy, it's the middle of lunch, and I kind of knew what I was doing, but not really. I didn't do a slow opening. I kind of just opened the doors, and people were waiting an hour for the food, and they were pissed off, and I was going, oh my God. The phone rings in the middle of the afternoon, right in the middle of the lunch. Paul, you got a phone call from Chicago.
Oh my God.
It was a medical school saying, hey, you got in. It starts in 10 days.
Oh my God.
And I go,
I'll be there.
No, wait. I said, can I call you back tomorrow? I actually said that. because it was already, the next day, before I made any calls, the phone rang again. Another medical school. Hey, you got in, and it starts in 14 days. So I said to both schools, I said, listen, I'm stuck here. I can't leave. I mean, this business will go down the tubes, but can you give me an automatic spot for next year? One school said no, the other school said yes, as long as I signed something, that I'm coming there no matter what, I'm not going to apply. So I worked 18, 17 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Oh, wow.
The restaurant business, got mentally ready, and then I left. I went to medical school.
That's pretty cool.
And then I go to Chicago. It's freezing. I'm living out I'm living in a beautiful place called Lake Forest, where Mr. T lived. And I think they made the movie Four Seasons or something out there. But the school was next to it in this little small town. It was like 25 below, the wind, chill. And I hated the weather, but all I did was study.
Yeah, you were now fully immersed.
I was immersed. And then I said, I got to get back to LA. And these guys were all cutthroat and competitive. I ended up doing incredible. I think I was either number 1 or 2 in the class. And then I transferred over to USC year 2 because they had 3 spots open. So that's the whole, and it was a long story.
No, I love it. I love it.
That's an interesting story for you.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a microcosm, I think, of your career, right? I mean, I really feel like you were very focused from the time I met you. You wanted to become the it rhinoplasty surgeon in the world. And I really believe that you did everything you can to get there, to hone your skills, to work your butt off, and you've gotten there. So, that's kind of what I see in your personality and who you are.
Well, what's interesting about the two of us, since we're both that type A, even though I'm a little bit more uptight and a little bit more hyper than you, you are type A, but in a very soft way.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what comes together. And so you're all listening to this, we have the fellowship and we're yin and yang.
Yeah.
And I'm in the face OCD with the fellows and tough on them. And, Dr. Azizzadeh is a little bit more laid back and relaxed and, because, but as long as but what we've created, if you look at what you've done, you become one of the world's most renowned facial nerve surgeons, which, again, it's not like there's many doctors that do that. And then I thank God I made a great name in revision rhinoplasty, which there's, obviously more of us than more of the facial nerve docs.
But there are a lot more patients. Need
that's
that.
true.
A lot more.
And we took something and we actually did a great job because you had a fellowship. Actually, your undergraduate training and your I know it's more about me, but I'm just telling you how it immerses itself. You had a residency that did a lot of this microvascular work. Then you did a fellowship, which really did it. My fellowship and training was, my training was very weak on rhinoplasty. And my fellowship was good on rhinoplasty, but just some basic
it was
rhinos, right. Not rib and reconstruction and revision. So what I did a little bit different, I taught myself. And so no one taught me how to do revision rhinoplasty. And again, how you learn with rhinoplasty is because every nose is different, is by all your mistakes and how the nose is.
And the one thing I think you do, and this is what we share with the fellows, and people don't realize, the amount of intricate detail that goes into revision rhinoplasty and attention to detail and being OCD bifold. Because one thing, as we talked about all these interviews, is there are times that I hear about it from the fellows, like, oh my God, the nose looked perfect. And Dr. Nassif was like, oh no, I don't like this shadow. Let's open it up and go back. And I think it takes that level of attention to detail, OCD, to really become a great rhinoplasty and revision rhinoplasty surgeon. And people, I don't think, realize how much energy and effort goes into it, because they're worried about all the things that need to, oh, I don't want rib, I don't want this, I want a 1 hour surgery, I want that. Why do you need 4 or 5 hours? And I think that the attention that you put into it and the details that you put into it makes the difference between and it took years, like you said, and you admit your mistakes. That's the thing. What I love, a lot of people don't. You're like, you admit your mistakes and you learn from them and you move on, and it just builds up layers.
Well, that kind of dovetails in a part two of that conversation, where when I came to Beverly Hills, you knew what you wanted to do. There was thousands. You can actually throw a rock and hit about 10 plastic or cosmetic surgeons. And so as I taught myself, and again, it took many, many, many years to do this and to slowly build a name. And then of course it, went into a season of Dr. 90210,
yeah,
the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, even though that didn't help my plastic surgery career. And then a subsequent immediate divorce, which was very difficult, the hardest time of my entire life, besides losing my parents. The whole, the whole thought process of how Botched got born, shall we say, we just finished and we were off the Housewives show, where pretty much there was a big conflict and we were off, and I was having dinner at a local restaurant in LA with the two producers. And I said, why don't we do a show that basically deals with messed up plastic surgery? And the working title of it was called Nip. Remember Nip Tucked?
Yeah.
On FX or whatever it was. So the impetus for this was Nip Effed, Nip. And one of the guys that I work with, who was one of our executive producers, Alex Baskin, says, listen, we do this and we take some patients too that we educate, and we can't fix them. And even though, of course, it's developed into its own, thank God, global phenomena right now because people love it. And I called the guy on the show, Dr. DeBro, and he goes, what are you, crazy? Because I'm not going to do a show like that. He just was on The Swan. And then he was on the bride one, or whatever it's called, Bridalplasty, which was a horrible show. And he even admits that. He goes, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go and do these hard complications and then show the we're going to mess up. I go, yeah, but that's the whole point. So he goes, okay. And we did a 5-minute sizzle reel where we just talked and looked at some messed up patients, that had been devastated with surgery. And at that point, what happened was we got picked up immediately by E. 500, it was 8 episodes, where 8 episodes were picked up, and we had 500 people casting. We had a casting department. Now we're in some, I'm kind of jumping to the point, since you mentioned this, obviously, to now we're showing on air right now, season 6B. We're going to be on air all the way till October, and we got to go back to filming season 7, which I don't think anyone knows that yet. But of course we can't now. We don't know, government opens up. And I'm available for 160 different countries.
That's amazing.
We have over 10,000 people now trying to get on that show.
That's amazing. I mean, that's crazy.
So there is pretty much now what I've given you, a complete history for me from college to where we are sitting right now. That's
amazing. That is amazing. And congratulations. I know there have been definitely bumps on the road, but you've done just an unbelievable job of going through those and getting to the pinnacle of 2 careers, really, if you look at it, right? You have your medical career that you're at at the top of your game, and then you have this entertainment career that
and in the skincare business, which
you're entrepreneur because you've been able to utilize this amazing skincare line to also kind of take off and what's the story with the skincare line right now? What's happening with the coronavirus and all? Is it getting impacted? Is it not impacted? What's happening with that aspect? And then I want to get into what you think about the plastic surgery aspect of coronavirus.
Sure. My Nassif MD Dermaceuticals is my anti-aging line. And then we also have one, which actually won't launch till June. It's called As If by Nassif. That's
I've seen that.
Anti-inflammatory for young kids with especially irritated skin.
Yeah.
But the Nassif MD Dermaceuticals, thank God, because, we're in Costco, we're in Home Shopping Network, we're in Australia, we're in Canada, we're in all these different venues and Amazon, everything else. That started about 4.5 years ago, and we have about 15 to 16 SKUs already, and our products are absolutely incredible. And while we've been in this pandemic, I've been able to be home, do a lot of videos, shall we say, and thank God, I'm knocking on wood, we've been holding steady, especially when it comes to now wearing masks. We're hearing from a lot of
irritations.
We're getting more irritation, dry skin, and a lot of our products are great for the hydration, and my detox pads, for example, are great for the irritation. So that business is obviously something that I love, skincare, since you and I as facial plastic surgeons know the skin from the inside out. And it makes sense when we're dealing with skin that's usually dry, irritated, not exfoliated properly. It makes our job more difficult.
No, for sure. The results of our surgeries are, whether it's nose or face, are so much better when the individual has good skin. Yeah.
Even though you and I also, then we have, I have my own med spas now. I have one working on in Dubai right now. I'm a partner in one in Manchester, England, working on a couple in Florida. So, thing too. Cool. So all that whole med spa but skincare, I love skincare. And I love the business aspect of it.
Yeah. No, and I think what you've done with your skincare line, which I can't say for about a lot of skincare lines, is you really put science behind it, because you're the type of personality, you're not going to just put something out there just because it has your name on it. So you have science behind it. It really works. And I think that's why it's successful. Otherwise, it wouldn't be. So,
and I have a good chemist, and the chemist and I work very well together, and I have a good CEO. So the three of us are a team, and it's nassifmdskincare.com.
Okay, cool.
So
now tell me what you think is happening with plastic surgery. You and I are on a lot of task force,
which right after
this we're going to be doing, and so we're pretty involved in developing guidelines and policies and procedures to make sure that patients have a very safe experience if they're going to do elective surgery. But what are your thoughts? What do you think is the right thing? What do you think the patients need to be aware of? And just maybe some information about that from your perspective.
Well, obviously in California, we are not at this point, depending on, this is May 8th. So depending when you know this podcast, we're not allowed yet to do cosmetic procedures. It was inferred or maybe stated by the governor we can't. However, as the city opens up, because other parts of the country and other parts of the world, they already are doing cosmetic surgery, and you and I are on multiple task force. And I think that, let's say it's 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
The governor says, you can start doing cosmetic procedures. I think us as whole, since we're physicians first, we're careful. And you and I were just talking before this about some of the tests that we're going to do. What we're going to do to be very careful, especially since you and I have patients that fly from all over the world. And so we'll take an example. I think if the doctor tests everybody that comes in as a patient, and again, since some of the tests aren't that sensitive yet, which means you can have the disease but test negative, we're going to do a few different tests.
Yes.
And I think from our standpoint, as long as things are starting to stabilize, as long as the patients are brought here or they're local, obviously local is better because they're not flying, but if they come here, they're self-quarantined for a certain amount of days, they're tested, everyone around the office in the operating room is tested, We do everything in regards to the PPE, which means, again, wearing the different types of masks and the special, the shields and the gloves and the, space outfits, for example. Especially with me, who does more inside the nose, which is more high risk than anything. And again, we're still learning about what are those risks. Since other colleagues of ours are already operating, we're going to learn that in the next month.
Yeah,
what's happening. And again, let's say someone does have it and you don't diagnose it, or they do get it for some reason around the perioperative situation. Obviously, we're all going to feel bad. I think because everyone is so astute to this, I think that as long as every doctor is as OCD-ish as we are and checks everything and is as careful as possible, and patients are healthy, so their immune status is healthy, and they're not, remember, the ones that have been getting really sick is obese, hypertension, and other medical, diabetes, other medical, issues, or a weak immune system. I think that if we can kind of go back slowly and do all of our precautions, and I know there will be some doctors that will be careless and will cause problems. I think if we do it the right way, we can get into this nice and slow and slowly. Things will always be different. The way we do things in our office, everything. The waiting room empty and the doors open and the infrared monitoring and the questions before they come in, about do you have any symptoms, the history, in the beginning, maybe just do some Botox in the spot so you can keep a face mask on. I think all these things, it's going to be a work in progress because it's fluid, it's unprecedented, and we don't exactly know what's going to happen. We could get a big second wave of this by opening up the country.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I think that's my best synopsis of us being as judicious as possible and careful as possible. Because obviously, a lot of patients have lost their jobs. And obviously there'll be some uproar because, this person's having a nose job.
Yeah.
But look at us, we don't have a job. Obviously there's going to be that too, so this is going to be a hard transition for all of us. I think it's going to be a tough environment for all of us. And I got to tell you, hindsight's going to be 20/20 on this. That's my best guess.
No, and I agree. I think that what is, first of all, number one is the safety of our patients. And I think you and I have been exactly, ever since 7-8 weeks ago, we've been exactly kind of thinking about that, being extra careful. And, a lot of people are like, what have you been doing in the last 7 weeks? I'm like, well, I'm doing a podcast, which is exciting. We're interviewing fellows, but we're really spending time looking at developing safety protocols for our patients and our staff and ourselves that are well thought out with the information that we have now. And that's really the key thing. A lot of people there is some, information is, lagging, but I think the testing, when you combine, the PCR, which is the swab, and the antibodies, the good antibodies, and you can do a couple of tests before surgery, I think we can get that part with some questions about, their health and not doing people who have morbidities, like you said, diabetics and, other risk factors that we now know more of. Then you're beginning to really reduce the risk that you are taking someone into the operating room that has coronavirus. So overall, I think we can do that. And as long as you and I have talked about this, there's ample PPEs available. And now in California, we don't have a surge. So the hospitals are stocked, the local facilities are stocked, and really that issue is becoming less and less. I think we can start slowly and carefully in a well thought out manner. And we don't need to rush.
But I think that was one of the reasons why they kind of stopped elective surgery.
Yeah, of course.
Was more because in case they need our ventilators.
Absolutely.
I'm sure the risk was there, but that I think was the number one impetus to this was we might need all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So don't waste it.
Yeah, and
makes sense.
And the other thing is there are many patients that are having plastic surgery that are medically necessary. People don't realize plastic surgery has two components. You have a cosmetic component, you have a reconstructive or medically necessary procedures, and also there are overlap. There are sometimes cases that we do that have both. So sometimes people have they've had previous surgery, or they have allergies or sinuses that have major nasal obstruction. They have chronic disease, chronic allergies, chronic sinuses that need revision surgery, and while you're doing that, the patient wants to have maybe, their bump removed or their tip narrowed or improved. So there are a lot of overlap. So hopefully, I think as long as, and this is for our viewers that are going to, think about doing this elective procedures, just make sure your doctor is well thought out this whole process, like I think what Dr. Nassif just outlined, so that you can be safe. Because there are some doctors that don't care. They just want to go back, and they're not going to really care as much about the precautions, and that's going to put you at risk. So
absolutely. I think that you and I just put together a beautiful summary.
Yeah.
Which is exactly, everything that we need to talk about.
Yeah.
I was on we're on a call tomorrow at 7:00 from that. I think it's AMWC or AWMC. It's that.
Oh yeah. You told me about that.
So it's at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning for different doctors from all over the world. There's 1,800 participants, and these are the same questions that they're talking about.
Yeah.
I was on it this morning. There's a doctor operating right now in Italy, a plastic surgeon. They opened up.
Yeah.
Because Italy is through the heavy part of it, and they're going through it. We were talking about how Colombia, right now, you can only leave your house, I think, a couple hours a day at certain times or something. So it's a different variety as we look across the spectrum.
Yeah, and you have to look at your local area and see. And I'm not so worried about traveling as long as we do the appropriate testing. And right now, the airlines, I think, are taking a lot of precautions and
do you know
wearing masks.
What is happening with the airlines? In other words, I know this is, but I don't even know this, how I'm missing this out. Yeah. If I'm going to go fly right now to Arizona.
Yeah, you can do that.
So when the airports are open and stuff?
Yeah. And then they also have social distancing. I think like in business class, you could only one person per, the two sides. In coach, I think it's 1 per 3 seats. But there aren't that, they don't have a huge volume of people traveling. So it's pretty easy. You got to wear a mask. Actually, the filtration of planes, air filtration is actually very good. The problem with planes were that they weren't cleaned well. Now they're like wiping it down. It's spanking clean. So they have, the one silver lining of this pandemic will be that I think we're going to have a lot cleaner spaces when we go out, at restaurants and at airlines and at airports. And so, at malls, at our, hair salons. So there is a little bit of a silver lining. Paul, I want to thank you. You've been amazing. I'm so glad we got a chance to catch up. Not that we haven't, we've seen each other a lot, but this was really great getting to know, I think, you a little bit more than, the stud that you are on TV and your amazing surgical career. Your history is really, really amazing. And I know you've come from humble beginnings and you've maintained your humbleness through this, and you're just a great friend and a great person. So I really, really appreciate your time. And I look forward to chatting with you in about 5 minutes on task force.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody.
All right. Have a good one. Okay.